Imogen standing in the middle of a street where the only sound is the wind whistling through broken window panes and the rhythmic creaking of a restless sign. This is not a movie set but a growing reality across the vast expanse of the American interior. While we talk about the United States as a land of bustling metropolises, a silent transformation is hollowing out the heart of the nation. From the rolling hills of West Virginia to the dusty plains of Kansas, thousands of communities are reaching a breaking point where the population has dipped below the level required to sustain a functioning society. This is the Great Hollow, a demographic and economic vacuum swallowing the American dream in real time. While the skylines of New York and Aston reach for the clouds, the skeletal remains of the rural economy rot in the sun. It is a story of two Americas, one hyper-connected and wealthy, and the other isolated and forgotten. To understand the future, we must look beyond the stock market and the empty space where the lights are slowly going out, one house at a time. The crisis of the empty states is a systemic collapse that threatens the very fabric of national identity. The American landscape is being reshaped by a migration of capital that leaves behind nothing but ghosts. This is our journey into the Great Hollow. The story of the empty states begins with the slow erosion of the industrial and agricultural foundations that once made the United States an undisputed global leader. For decades, the small towns of the Midwest and the South were the engines of projection, providing the steel, the coal, the coal, and the coal the world. However, as the global economy shifted towards service and high technology, these regions found themselves on the wrong side of history. The transition was not overnight, but a gradual process of disinvestment and displacement. Large corporations that once anchored local economies began to consolidate, moving their operations to offshore logistics to centralized urban hubs where the cap and easy, urban hubs where the CCL is talent. This left the rural workforce with fewer options and low wage, triggering a chain reaction of economic decay. When the primary employer in a town shuts its doors, the local ecosystem begins to crumble. The grocery stores, the pharmacies, and the schools all depend on the circulation of money from that single source. Without it, the tax base shrinks, leading to a decline in public services and infrastructure. This is the mechanism of the economic shock that has turned vibrant communities into ghost towns. The demographic shift followed closely behind the economic one. Young people, seeing no future in their hometowns, began to migrate in massive numbers toward the cities. This brain drain has left the empty states with an aging population and the lack of innovation. The housing market in these areas tells a tragic story. While home prices in San Francisco or Seattle reach millions of dollars, houses in parts of the Rust Belt can be bought for the price of a used car. Yet even at these low prices, there are no buyers because there are no jobs to support a mortgage. This disparity creates a geographic trap where residents cannot afford to leave because their primary asset has no value, but they cannot afford to stay because there's no income. The crisis is compounded by the rising costs of healthcare and education, which are increasingly out of reach for those living in the hollow-out regions. The government and central bank responses have often focused on macroeconomic indicators like the national employment rate or the S&P 500, which mask the suffering of the rural poor. While the national economy might look strong on paper, the reality on the ground in states like West Virginia or Mississippi is one of persistent poverty and effigy. The opioid crisis is a direct symptom of this economic despair, filling the void left by lost jobs and broken communities. When people lose their sense of purpose and their financial security, they become vulnerable to the shadows of addiction. This is the human cost of the Great Hollow, a tragedy that cannot be measured in GDP points alone. Looking at global case, we see similar patterns in countries like Japan, where thousands of abandoned houses known as IKEA are being reclaimed by nature. In Europe, the depopulation of the countryside in Spain and Italy shows that the urban-rural divide is a worldwide phenomenon. However, the American case is unique because of the sheer scale of the geography and the speed of the transition. The United States was built on the idea of the frontier and the belief that there was always more land to conquer and more wealth to extract. Now, for the first time in its history, the nation is retreating from its own territories. This retreat has profound implications for the political and social stability of the country. The sense of being forgotten has fueled a deep resentment among rural populations, leading to a polarized political landscape where different parts of the country seem to be living in different centuries. The economic indicators that unsignal the healthy nation, such as high home ownership and stable manufacturing jobs, are becoming relics of the past in the empty states. The credit default swaps and liquidity cries of the past decade have only accelerated the decline, as small local banks or swallow traditional giants that have no interest in lending to a giant town. The real estate market in the heartland has become a graveyard of failed dreams, with empty malls and abandoned factories serving as monuments to a bygone era. Even the agricultural sector, which was once the backbone of the American interior, has been transformed by automation and corporate consolidation. The family farm is being replaced by massive industrial operations that require for workers and send their profits to distant shareholders. This means that even in areas where the land is still productive, the people are still disappearing. The migration trends show a clear movement toward the Sunbelt and the coastal regions, creating a crowded and expensive reality in some place while leaving others to wither away. The housing market in the cities is under immense pressure, leading to a crisis of affordability that is the flip side of the roll calls. We are seeing a concentration of wealth and human capital that is unprecedented in history, creating a lopsided economy that is increasingly fragile. If the city becomes too expensive and the rural areas become too empty, the middle class has now whole left to go. This is the paradox of the modern American economy. Personal survival strategies in the empty states often involve multiple part-time jobs and a reliance on informal networks of support. People are finding ways to adapt, but the struggle is immense. The lack of high-speed internet and modern infrastructure makes it difficult for these regions to participate in the digital economy. Further, high-speed internet ziving the rest of the world. The government has attempted various revitalization programs, but many of these are like putting a bandage on a gaping wound. Without a fundamental change in how we value land and community, the hollow will only continue to grow. The central bank policies of low interest rates have benefited the wealthy who can invest in the stock market, but they have done little for the person trying to start a small business in a town with small business in a town with small missions. The liquidity does not reach the place that need it most. We must also consider the environmental impact of this abandonment. As towns are left behind, the infrastructure begins to fail, leading to issues with water quality and waste management. The cost of maintaining roads and bridges for a shrinking number of people is becoming unsustainable for many local governments. This leads to a further decline in the quality of life, pushing even more people to leave. It is a vicious cycle that is difficult to break. The story of the empty states is a story of a nation that is losing its connection to the land. The geography of America is being redefined not by the people who live there, but by the capital that flows through it. The ghost towns of the 21st century are not just in the Old West, they are in the heart of the Midwest and the valleys of the Appalachians as the quintessence. The economic reality behind this is a cold and calculating one, where efficiency is valued above all else. But a nation is more than just an efficient economic machine. It is a collection of people and places with history and a meaning. When we allow large parts of our country to become empty, we lose a part of our collective identity. The Great Hollow is a reflection of our priorities and the mirror of our future if we do not change course. The impact on the US economy as a whole is significant, as the loss of productivity in these regions drags down the national potential. The social costs of poverty and addiction are a burden that everyone carries, regardless of where they live. The systemic collapse of the rural economy is a warning that our current model of growth is not sustainable for everyone. We need to find a way to bridge the gap between the two Americas and create a more inclusive economy that values the heartland as much as the coast. This will require bold new ideas and a commitment to investing in people and places that have been left behind. The survival of the American dream depends on our ability to fill the hole and bring life back to the empty states. As we examine the specific states that are most affected, we see that the crisis is not uniform but has different flavors depending on the local histories. In West Virginia, the decline of coal has left a void that nothing has been able to fill. In the Dakotas, the boom and bust cycles of the oil industry have created temporary prosperity followed by long periods of stagnation. In the Great Plains, the consolidation of farming has led to the disappearance of entire counties. Each of these stories is a chapter in the larger narrative of the Great Hollow. The economic indicators in these states are often grim, with high rates of unemployment and low levels of educational attainment. The housing market is stagnant and the population continues to age as the young move away. This is the reality of the American geography in the 21st century. It is a landscape of extremes where the distance between success and failure is growing every day. The government response has been a mix of tax incentives and infrastructure projects, but these often fail to address the underlying structural issues. The central bank controls the money supply, but it did not create a sense of community or a reason for people to stay in the dying town. This requires a different kind of investment, one that focuses on human capital and social infrastructure. We need to think about how we can use technology to reconnect these isolated regions to the global economy. Remote work offers a glimmer of hope, but it requires a level of connectivity that many of these places currently lack. If we can provide high-speed internet and modern services to the heartland, we might be able to reverse the migration trends and bring people back to the empty cities. This will not only help the rural areas, but also relieve the pressure on the for-crowded cities. It is a potential win-win for the national economy, but it will require a massive and coordinated effort. The personal survival strategies of those who choose to stay are a testament to the resilience for it. They are finding ways to innovate and create even in the face of overwhelming odds. Whether it is through small-scale agriculture, local tourism, or niche manufacturing, there are people who are fighting to keep the communities alive. These are the heroes of the Great Hollow, and they deserve our support. The economic reality they face is incredibly difficult, but the commitment to their homes is a powerful force. We must listen to their stories and learn from their experiences if we are to find a solution to the crisis of the empty states that their cap stores store their stores doors. The impact of the Great Hollow on the national psyche is also profound. It creates a sense of loss and a feeling that the country is moving in the wrong direction. The images of abandoned malls and boarded up main streets are a stark reminder of what we had lost. They challenge the narrative of progress and force to confront the consequences of our economic choice. The Great Hollow is not just a geographic phenomenon, it is a cultural and emotional one as well. It speaks to a sense of disconnection and a loss of belonging that is felt by many Americans today. As we look at the future, we must ask ourselves what kind of country we want to be. Do we want to be a nation of a few hyper-wealthy hubs surrounded by a vast and empty wilderness? Or do we want to be a country where opportunity is available to everyone, to returns, or they lie? The choice is ours, but the clock is ticking. The hollow is growing and the silence is getting louder. We need to act now if we want to save the heart of the nation. The economic indications, the migration trends, and the housing market all point to a crisis that is reaching a tipping point. We cannot afford to ignore the empty states any longer. Their reality is our reality, and their future is our future. The Great Hollow is a call to action, a reminder that we are all connected and that the health of the nation depends on the health of all its parts. As we follow this exploration of the economic reality behind America's empty states, let us reflect on the profound closing message of this journey. The silence of the Great Hollow is not just the absence of noise, it is a powerful statement about the state of our union. It tells us that we have prioritized growth over community and efficiency over humanity, but it also offers a glimmer of hope. In the empty space there is room for new ideas and new beginnings. We have the opportunity to reimagine what the American heartland can be and to be able to build a more resilient, inclusive economy. This will require us to look beyond the short-term gains of the stock market and to invest in the long-term health of our communities. We must recognize that every person, every place has value, and that our strength as a nation comes from our diversity and our connection to the land. The Great Hollow can be filled, but only if we have the courage to face the reality of the crisis and the crisis oppression to create a better future. Let us not be the generation that allow the heart of the country to stop beating. Let us be the ones who brought life back to the empty states and restore the American dream for everyone. The journey ahead will be difficult, but it is a journey we must take together. The silence is waiting for us to speak, and the empty streets are waiting for us to return. This is the challenge of our time and the legacy we will leave for the generations to come. We must act with urgency and compassion to bridge the divide and heal the wounds of the Great Hollow. The future of the American economy and the soul of the nation depend on it. As we look toward the horizon, the question remains whether the Great Hollow can ever be filled, or if we are witnessing a permanent contraction of the American footprint. The economic reality is harsh, existing someplace may never recover. This shift is not merely about numbers on a spreadsheet, but about the souls of communities that once formed by bond of a job rubber upper power. We must ask what it means to be a prosperous nation when so much of our land is surrendered to decay. The survival of these states will require a fundamental reimagining of rural life in a digital age. If we fail to address the chasm between the thriving coast and the dying interior, we risk a future where the country is no longer at times is no longer attribution of attrition of isolation of isolated abandonment. The Great Hollow is a warning that growth at the expense of community is a dip that will eventually come due. It is time to listen to the silence before it becomes the only thing left to hear. The story of America is still being written, and the empty states are waiting for their next chapter. Let us ensure it is one of revival, rave, earth, and finality. The heartland is waiting for us to come home.